Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming today. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here amongst such a distinguished crowd of people. And a huge thank you to the people in the room here today who have made my position possible. I really can't thank you enough. As Jane said, my name is Max. I'm the Herald's economic mobility reporter. Someone asked me recently what that meant. That's a response I get kind of a lot when I tell people what my job is, economic mobility reporter. And so I gave them my usual spiel. It's how people get ahead. It's how they make money. It's how their economic position compares to that of their parents and of their past selves. Ideally, it's better. And the person was probably in their late 20s or early 30s. And they laughed when I said that last bit. And they said, must be nice. And I think that just about sums up what I've come to see as a multi-generational feeling about upward economic mobility, that it's part of some halcyon past, a feeling that is actually much more of a reality than a feeling. Because the facts are that Gen Z and millennials' paychecks tend not to stretch like their parents did. In most cases, they have access to fewer social services. And to top it all off, they are staring down the barrel of a mass employment extinction event, potentially not seen since the first industrial revolution, thanks to AI. And so that's left a lot of people, both younger and older, that I've talked to, kind of feeling that reality as loss, as confusion, as hopelessness or bitterness, in some cases, frankly, betrayal, because they followed this promise, this idea of a goal held up as achievable, that if they did certain things would happen. X would yield Y. But for more and more people, that's just not happening. And they feel that promise, that goal, receding fast into the past. And so a lot of the people I talk to in our community now, they're not even thinking about getting ahead. They're thinking about keeping a roof over their heads. They're thinking about keeping food in their stomachs. And facing the current and future employment markets, if they have a job, they are clinging to it like the last chopper out of Saigon. And that's a really suffocating feeling, I think. Maybe stifling. I'm honestly not sure I have the right word for it, because it feels like a negation of something that's natural, mobility. I think it's a fundamental part of human nature. I think it's natural for people to want to achieve things, to build upon what they've been given. I think that's especially the case in the US, where for centuries people have come to seek and build better lives. And I think that's even more so in Miami, which is really the world's shining immigrant city. It's the magic city we all want to create, to build. We all want to realize our goals and potentials, and in doing so, to realize ourselves. And I think, to me, I've come to learn that that is mobility manifest. But for many people now, and again, not just younger people, they associate mobility with loss. It's mobility, but in the wrong direction. And in most major cities, and especially in Miami, as Jane said, they're right. Because the fact is that economic mobility first requires economic stability. You can't ascend, you can't climb the ladder if you're actively falling, or if you're working yourself into the grounds to prevent yourself, your kids, your parents from falling, either into debt, to bankruptcy, foreclosure, in a lot of cases in homelessness, and all that entails. And unfortunately, that is the position that most Miamians are in. Jane mentions that United Way of Miami report, which found that 54% of greater Miami households live paycheck to paycheck. They're unable to save, they're unable to buffer against disaster. That's millions of people. So let's pretend you're 27 and you're one of those people. Research out of Harvard shows that you probably make about $3,000 less than you would have had you lived here in 2005. You spend somewhere between a third and half of your income on rent, and whatever's left on transportation, food, and healthcare, if you're lucky. And if you have a kid, you're probably gonna have to choose between paying for childcare and paying for that food, that insurance, some critical medicine, or that car that you definitely need here. And if you're in that position, you probably don't have the conditions to think about pursuing economic mobility. And that's probably despite doing everything right. That's despite going to school. That's despite working a full-time job. I see it a lot in my beat, honestly, too much. It's not disheartening. I mean, it is disheartening, but it's more scary because I think about it. It could be me. It could be you. It could be anyone you love. It makes me think of Shirley Finzi, who's a 63-year-old grandmother I interviewed recently for a story. She works 40 hours a week. She's a janitor and works the graveyard shift. I mean, totally backbreaking work. She lives out of her car because she can't scrap together first month, last month, and a security deposit. I think about a guy named Ryan Hyatt. He's 54. He was a former pilot. He lost his job 2 years ago after being laid off. I got to meet him and his wife and his 3-year-old son late last year for a story I was working on. And they're surviving on government benefits. I mean, really just like $1,000 a month for these 3 people. But like thousands of Floridians, he's had to turn down job offers because they pay just enough to disqualify him from receiving government benefits, but not enough for him, for his wife, and his son to survive, for his son to go to preschool and to eat dinner every night. So I guess from what I've seen, for upward economic mobility to be possible, for people to really get to pursue it, they can't be in that position of just surviving, of just spinning the wheels. They can't be constantly fighting to keep themselves and their kids and their loved ones off the streets. It's just too precarious a position to think strategically about the future. And from a social perspective, that is, one, extremely inefficient. Lots of skills are lost and lots of costs are incurred. And two, it's very risky to have a lot of people, just one disaster, like a car crash or a hurricane, away from total destitution. I was talking to a University of Miami economist recently for a story, and he put it to me pretty flatly. He said, we can either pay to keep people stable, or we can pay to deal with the consequences. Either way, society is going to pay. So what could we pay for? We could pay for jails. We could pay for neighborhood police patrols or bars on our windows and personal security systems. Or we could pay for some of the great solutions I hear around, many from people in this room. And I'm sure some of them will speak about those ideas later. But some of the initiatives I heard that seem potentially promising, I've heard proposals like the one from the FIU Metropolitan Center. They advocated for, among other things, a vacancy tax on empty housing that could discourage the property speculation that's really driven up local prices and could raise money for affordable housing construction. Annie Lord keeps telling me about a general obligation bond. That sounds like a pretty good idea. I see efforts to repurpose underutilized urban space that certain community nonprofits and religious organizations are undertaking. They're building affordable housing units on their land to more efficiently use the land that they have. I see pushes to prioritize getting homeless people into housing quickly and to keep working families in their homes so that they can achieve the stability needed to pursue economic mobility. And I see great work at the state level to tie people's benefits to local wages, which are much higher than federal averages, to smooth the benefits cliffs that actively disincentivize economic mobility. Much of it is out of local control, but I guess these are some of the solutions that Miami as a community can and has been pursuing. And really what a community this is. I mean, I'm not from Miami. From the outside, I can tell you the city is known for a lot of things. But what struck me immediately when I moved here last year was the dynamism and the innovation and ingenuity that exists. I've really never been in a city with such energy and such an expansive feeling of what's possible. The whole nation's confronting the problems that I've mentioned. It's flailing around as it looks for answers. Miami could be the solution. Thanks.